when they have that negative thought dropping down into the body and feeling into, usually it's like the chest or the stomach area, that thought is going to come with a physical sensation inside the body, which is going to give us such awesome data on what's going on, why the person isn't manifesting, what we need to get out of the way. So if we change our beliefs, our reticular activating system is going to start filtering through the data that it gets from the world. It's going to start bringing through the beliefs that we hold to be true.
Today we have a very special guest here. We have Mellissa Baisi, who's a psychologist, and the great thing about her is she's into manifestation, Neville Goddard, and I'm personally very curious to hear about her opinion, and I feel that you guys might be really thrilled to hear about what she has to share today. So welcome, Mellissa. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing really well. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So
Good.
can you start by sharing a little bit about your background? Because I know you're into like attachment theory, and can you just give me a brief background about yourself?
For sure. So I'm a registered psychologist and also an attachment coach. So I help people fix their unhealthy relationships. Usually it has to do with having unhealthy attachments. So we work on going from insecure attachment style to a secure attachment style. And I like to integrate Neville Goddard and principles of manifestation into my work as well.
Well, that's really awesome. So for the people who probably don't know about the different attachment styles, can you just briefly explain what those are?
For sure. So about 50% of the population is securely attached, and about 50% of the population is insecurely attached. And then within that 50% of the population that's insecurely attached, we have an anxious attachment style and we have an avoidant attachment style. And that constitutes the majority of the 50%, those two attachment styles. And then we have a smaller one that takes up around 6% of that 50%. And that's called a disorganized attachment style. And that disorganized attachment style has a little bit of anxiousness and avoidance in it. So that one's a little bit of a mix of both. But usually the anxious attachment style and the avoidant attachment style pair up. And I find that people who are manifesting an SP usually are the anxious attachment style, and they've attracted an avoidant attachment style that they're trying to manifest back into their life.
Okay. So from my understanding, people who are more in the anxious style, they're more worrying about like what's going to happen, whether they're going to leave me, right? Whereas avoidant people, they're usually like, okay, just don't come close to me. I need some space, that kind of people, right?
Yeah.
So do you see a lot of that kind of like relationship dynamic in your like clients when they come in?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my whole entire practice of
Okay.
people who are in an anxious attachment style or an avoidant attachment style, and they're trying to get their relationship worked out so they can move into a secure attachment style.
Okay, got you. Got you. So how does this play into like the law of assumption and manifesting a specific person? And what kind of changes have you seen with, client within themselves, also in their relationships?
Yeah, for sure. So what I do with people is we begin on working on the attachment style and we begin healing how they've learned how to attach to people. And so once we have attachment styles healed up, we can then move into the manifesting aspect of it and begin creating a version of our SP that is desirable and that has a secure attachment style so they can match up with our newly healed attachment style.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'd love to hear more on that. So like like when I coach my clients, or when I'm working one-on-one with my clients, like usually they come in to not actually change themselves, right? They want to manifest a partner, right? But I guess where you start is you're starting with basically just asking them to work on themselves, right? That's
Yes,
how it starts,
exactly.
and then you go into the whole manifestation thing.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so oftentimes when they heal themselves, they might see their SP a little bit differently. But not all the time. You can always manifest your SP back, whether or not I mean, there are no conditions on
Right.
manifesting an SP back. You can manifest an SP back. You don't even have to heal your attachment style to manifest your SP back. But
Gotcha.
it's definitely advised to heal the attachment style, heal the dynamics that have gotten you into a situation where you're maybe not in communication, or maybe broken up, or maybe not in the happiest relationship. It's advised to
Right.
definitely go ahead and heal your own attachment style first. And once that attachment style is healed, you can go forward and manifest your SP. You can manifest maybe a new SP so that you have a blank slate. And that sometimes is a more comfortable way to move forward as well. But I know not a lot of people like to hear that. They want to manifest their SP. They have someone specific in mind and they want that person. And that's definitely a doable thing.
Yeah.
And that's where the Neville Goddard techniques come in. Because we're not just manifesting an SP, we're manifesting a new version of ourselves as well.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really important, is that new version of us, that new securely attached version of us shows up to manifest our SP and a secure version of our SP as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I very much agree with you. And this is what I keep saying too, because, that kind of short-term gain is possible, right? When you're trying to manifest a specific person without even trying to change yourself. And you can do this through like visualization, affirmations, and those are some of the modalities that I go through too, right? And those quick manifestations are definitely possible, but it's not just about, just manifesting somebody quick, right? But it's also trying to change your own internal patterns. I think that's what is most important in the long run, right? Because you can manifest someone today, but at the same time, if you fall back into your own pattern because you haven't changed it, it's probably, it's possible that they're gonna go away again, right? And that kind of dynamic keeps repeating over and over again. Do you see that happen with your clients as well?
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't go in and do the healing work, you don't go in and change your attachment style, then you're usually going to find yourself in the same pattern repeating itself over and over, of like breaking up, then making up, breaking up, then making up. So it's going to be really important to go in and heal some of those childhood wounds
Uh-huh.
so that we don't keep playing out these subconscious patterns over and over again and getting these same results.
Right, right. Yeah, that's very powerful. And the way I like to do it is the way I have done it for myself, which is I have gone through like, just really observing myself. And I went through some therapy too back in the day, which helped me figure out like what my limiting beliefs were, right? And then from there on, like I went out to just like change my beliefs. I would just be very observant about it. And I guess, not everybody's can be very introspective, right? But so how can people use what you teach, or like what you do with your clients, so they can like change their own like patterns before they go out to manifest? I'm not saying like you have to first change your patterns, but if they wanted to do what you are suggesting, like how could they be doing this?
Yeah, so it starts with going inward and beginning to identify our triggers
Hmm.
and what kind of thing flares up an insecure attachment style.
Hmm.
And that's going to be different for everyone, but oftentimes there's going to be sensitivities around rejection and abandonment. And that kind of stuff starts way earlier in life than just when the relationship started. So
Right.
oftentimes we're going to see those same patterns that we're playing out with an SP. We had those same parent patterns with our parents, our primary caregivers. And so that's really the issue, is that we are trying to work out a problem that started in childhood, but we're trying to work it out in adulthood in this current day relationship,
Hmm.
when really this is not the place to work it out. Where we want to be working it out is back from our childhood and resolving those parental relationships.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, yeah, that makes total sense, right? Yeah, yeah, and I totally believe on that too, because I think a lot of people have the same kind of patterns, like that's completely directly related to the relationships that they had with their parents. And and a lot of times, like because one of the techniques that I really like to use when I'm like doing one-on-one sessions with my client is just taking them through this meditation, which is like sort of like this revision technique, right? I asked them to
Mhm.
go in the past and like find out a triggering moment. And a lot of time it has to do with something that went sideways, it just went off track with the parents. And that was very interesting to me. And I just usually ask them to choose a memory by themselves. I don't suggest them what kind of memory that you want to choose or whatever, right? But it usually goes back to the parents and like how they felt unloved or mistreated, or they just felt abandoned to some extent, right? And I think that's really, really awesome. So going from there, like how does manifestation come into play in your work? Like, or when you use the techniques like Neville Goddard techniques or law of assumption, how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I like to use things like expanding the imagination through visualization, affirmations, SATs,
Mm-hmm.
all of the Neville techniques I really love to use in order to kind of create that end state, that wish fulfilled state, and help train my clients to be able to fall into the living in the end state faster and easier than what they were able to do yesterday. So as long as we're always improving how quickly we can get into the end state,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that we're making some really awesome progress. It's okay to fall out of the end state. We can be out of the end state and still get our manifestation. But what we want to be practicing is getting back into the end state faster and for longer periods of time. How about you? How do you approach that with your coaching?
Yeah, it's definitely the same thing. And I usually I like to ask them to take an inventory of like their inner focus, which is what I like to call them. It's basically like the reticular activation system, or like what they're actually focusing on. And like what kind of thoughts are they having after they're doing visualization too, right? Because a lot of people come out of visualizing, they feel like really great, and they feel like, okay, something has shifted. But how they go about during the rest of the day, like what are their thoughts saying about their manifestation, right? Just keep an inventory of that and keep coming back to the end state, right? The living in the wish fulfilled. So I just asked him to take an inventory throughout the day when they're doing that, and I think this is very powerful for a lot of people, because a lot of times they don't even know like what their thoughts are thinking, right? Which directions are their thoughts heading towards. But when they're starting to observe their thoughts and see that, oh, I'm still thinking that they're not going to respond back to my text or whatever, that means that they still need some more work to do, right? And
Yeah.
it's not even like like hard work or anything. Even that kind of awareness can alone be curative, right? As soon as they have
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thought, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is what I'm thinking right now, but I don't want to think that way. I'm just going to think that they're already into me, and maybe they're just busy with some other stuff and they're going to respond back to me soon or whatever, right? So this is like the way that I like to go about it.
Yeah. And another thing I like to do too, I do the same thing by getting them to take an inventory of what their different thoughts are. And what I like to do is get them to connect those thoughts
Hmm.
to a physical sensation in their body, because that's how I get them working with their nervous system and beginning to regulate their nervous system by when they have that negative thought dropping down into the body and feeling into, usually it's like the chest or the stomach area, that thought is going to come with a physical sensation inside the body, which is going to give us such awesome data on what's going on, why the person isn't manifesting, what we need to get out of the way in order to get the person manifesting what they're looking for.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And that's another thing that I really like to focus on, because feeling is actually the secret, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even I don't know if you know this, but even the director of the movie Secret, I forgot her name, Rhonda Bryan or something. She had
Yeah,
another
yeah,
book
from
out, and that was the book was called Power. But in that book, it's talking all about like feelings and how you have to cultivate feelings in order to manifest. And I was surprised because I revisited that book like last year after like a long time, because I read that back in the day, right? And I completely forgot about that. I didn't even do manifesting for a lot of years. Then I came back to like like manifesting and everything. But that book had so many quotes from Neville Goddard that were just talking about like how your feeling is so much important, and like how you have to really be in tune with the feelings. And and I think that that's a great way to take an inventory of like, how your manifestation is going, because it's giving you a sign, right? It's showing you a sign of like, not just like from externally, but you can actually listen to your body, listen to your emotions, just like you said, like, and those feelings in the chest and, like down the stomach. I think that's very important to listen to, because that's giving you some feedback that you can actually work on, and like you can go on to, like manifest what you want after that.
Yeah. And oftentimes, those parts in our body that are giving us that important information, it is going to be connected to childhood memories that do need to be cleared. And that's why I get people to really listen into their body, because their body is going to tell them where their thoughts are right now, but it's also going to tell them about their childhood wounding that needs to be healed and cleared away in order for them to get to their manifestation.
Got you. So like,
Yeah.
going forward, like is this possible for people to do it by themselves, or do you recommend working with somebody who's like trained professional, especially working with their, the past traumas or the past memories from the childhood? Do you recommend, like, is there a way they can work on themselves, or do you recommend working with like a therapist or psychologist such as yourself?
I think it really depends on the person. If they're able to get what they need from videos and they're able to get movement, they're able to learn how to manifest and see their world unfold in ways that they want,
Mhm.
then I don't think that they need to probably get help. But if they're stuck and they've been trying to manifest something for a long time, like 6 months or a year or longer, then I think it's really helpful to go to a coach or a psychologist or somebody like me who does both, or somebody like you, because you're saying that you're doing kind of all the same things that I'm doing too. So just getting an extra set of eyes on the situation and getting somebody else's external input on where your blocks might be is
Mhm.
going to be super helpful to get those blocks out of the way. Sometimes we just can't do it on our own.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. But I think having that kind of like insight from somebody else can be really, really helpful, because I mean, I still have coaches for myself. Life is just this kind of process where you can always get better, right? And it's not just about like creating drastic changes. But I mean, that's definitely going to happen over the years, but it's also about constant improvement in your life, right? And I think that's definitely
Yeah.
doable too. So where do you see, like, the world of practical psychology and manifesting, like how do they fit together?
Oh, hopefully they come together soon. But already I think that we're starting to see psychology and manifesting blend. I think that a lot of
Really?
coaches now know about the reticular activating system,
Yeah.
like you were talking about. And basically, for anyone who doesn't know, that's a part of our brain that filters through the world and sees things as we believe things to be. So if we change our beliefs, our reticular activating system is going to start filtering through the data that it gets from the world in it's going to start bringing through the beliefs that we hold to be true. So our belief system is really everything. How
Right.
would you describe the reticular activating
Yeah, yeah, pretty
system?
much the same way. It's basically this inner focus system, right? Like whatever our beliefs are,
Mhm.
we just see those things that are aligned with our beliefs. And in the same way, when you're trying to manifest like certain kind of car, you only see that kind of car like everywhere down the road, right? And I think that's just an important part of our like the way we are wired, and like according to what we want and what we believe, what you focus on, that's always what you get back. And world is basically a perception of like what we believe to be true, right? It's basically just that. If we believe
Yeah.
something is true, like that's what we see all the time. And I think that's also like, it's really related to law of assumption too, because that's what law of assumption is too, right? What we assume
Yeah.
to be true is going to be true, because that's also got to do with our reticular activation system, which is showing us the only reality we want to see, right? Ultimately, we want what we want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's also another place of overlap that I can think of off the top of my head. In psychology, we talk about the states of our nervous system.
Mhm.
And basically, the state that you're in is how you're going to see the world, which is really awesome because that's also how the manifesting community sees things. So I am starting to see that psychology is catching up to manifesting,
Mhm.
but I think that manifesting is definitely ahead of its time. Well,
Mhm.
not of its time because it's timeless, promise.
Right.
But I think that manifesting is ahead of psychology, and psychology just needs to catch up with the evidence-based nature of it so that
Mhm,
we can get more evidence
mhm.
that manifesting really does work.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I think, and it's definitely getting there because when there are people like as yourself, like who are really open-minded about this stuff, and I've also heard about other like psychiatrists and psychologists who are on the mainstream, and they're really open-minded too, and they're really tuning into like different things about like spirituality and things like that. They're all like trying to combine them, and that's really awesome, and I think there's a lot of hope, on this, not just from like the manifesting perspective, but just about like the healing perspective too, and which is a great thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's so exciting to see the two kind of blend together. And I hope to see more psychologists that take this route, learn about manifesting, learn about Neville Goddard, learn about, if you just practice these techniques, you can see it and get evidence for yourself of it in your own life and then begin to teach it to other people.
I also hope that the manifesting coaches too, they are more aware about the terms from the psychology, or the teachings from psychology, so they can apply into the manifestation too, because sometimes it takes more than just like affirmations and visualizations to get them that permanent kind of manifestation, rather than just like getting that spotty kind of manifestation, right? So I hope that even manifestation coaches, like they get to learn some from the psychology, so like people can get. Better help out of it.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point that that's really what kind of powers the manifestation is if you have your inner hurts and your healing all figured out,
Mhm,
manifesting then can become a permanent thing that you are bringing into your life. But when you have a bunch of junk that hasn't been worked out from childhood,
mhm.
manifesting is going to be spotty, just like you said, and it's going to be inconsistent, hot and cold. So
Right.
we really need to get our traumas and our hurts worked out before we're going to get that consistent manifesting power.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. But yeah, I think that was a great conversation, and I think that was
Yeah.
a lot. I think I mean, I think I felt like I've learned a lot, out of this conversation too, and I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure our viewers are gonna find this really really helpful. But so how can they find you, Mellissa? Like if they had to, contact you for work, or just to get your advice or whatever, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you can go to attachmentrecovery.com,
Mhm.
and I'm also on YouTube and Instagram.
Okay. So yeah, we're gonna link that on the video description, like down below. So don't forget to check that out too. But yeah, do you have any last words, Melissa, before we end this video?
Well, I just want to encourage everybody to definitely look inward, see if there's things, if you're struggling to get your manifestation and it's been taking a long time, you're going to probably want to be looking at the blocks. And the blocks are probably going to be things from earlier in life that haven't been worked out. So I just want to encourage people to look inward, be really honest with yourself. That's absolutely essential in manifesting, is to be honest with yourself and reach out for help if you need it.
Yes, that's wonderful. Yeah, thank you for that, Melissa.
Yeah, no problem. It was awesome talking with you today.
Awesome talking to you too.